That shortwave radio aesthetic is right there to be had on the internet with a web browser. The interface might look a bit sci-fi military, but I can manage the basics, so can you. Magical sounds await. Open another browser window. Go to map.kiwisdr.com. Every dot on this map is not a radio station, it's a radio, a Kiwi software-defined radio. Now, they're all free to use and they all have essentially the same interface. So, whatever takes your fancy, just pick one. It's not switched on yet. Let's quickly look at the interface. Down here at the radio controller, we have the frequency. We have the mode, so AM, or a couple of others we'll use later, LSB and USB. Zoom buttons, really useful because we will have all of long wave, medium wave and short wave visible in one place. So zooming in will help. Yes, there's a record button. This will download a WAV to your computer. Extension, we'll find some wonder in here too. Right, in the next video, we're actually ready to play with it. But before we press start, be warned, it will immediately tune to whatever the last person left it at. So here comes a noise. So a bit of housekeeping really. I originally made these as 4 or 5 Twitter videos, which is much shorter, short time limit. And here I've sort of put them all together into one, but this is the only edit I'm making. So there'll be bits where I say, time to go over to the next video. It's all just one long video all the way through. You'll figure it out, I'm sure. You've gone to map.kiwisdr.com. You've clicked into one of the radios there. And now press to start the Open Web RX. RX means radio receiver. And what's going on? The window shows the radio spectrum filling up with blue static, which is no signal, and green, yellow and orange signals of all sorts. And it's falling through time in front of us like a waterfall. Even zoomed out like this, we would probably still see the difference if the radio itself was in night or daylight. Might be more up here, more down there. Medium wave is usually fairly busy and a safe place to start listening for familiar radio. Bit more interface though. Up here, the radio frequencies go from 0 kHz to 30,000 kHz. These yellow lines are where you are actually tuned into right now. Up above that, these flags show what signals you might hear on those frequencies, though there's no guarantee. And then up here is broadly what type of signal should be where. So meter bands like medium wave, shortwave broadcast bands, ham radio bands, things like that. So to make the sounds be different, zoom in either with your trackpad or the controller buttons. In the controller, look as well at the mode. USB is highlighted green. We'll change that to AM. Here's the difference. This isn't the same USB as used for plugging stuff in and out of your computer. Anyway, I prefer to start in AM. It's better for tuning around. But I need a cuppa for the full listening session. So, next video. Okay, so we can talk a little bit about finding interesting signals or even creating interesting signals. So start maybe with AM, but also try LSB, USB, and CW. Those are interesting ones. If once you have the cursor like that, oh, don't try again. There we go. You need to zoom in to get it. Oh, hard. You can create the odd sound by tuning over an existing signal, because that adds an extra change into it. Let's put that back to CW now. Or USB. Now there happens to be an interfering signal here making this extra weird. Zoom out. Bit more weird signals. Zoom in. Difference. So, we've been tuning around, we've been just having random sounds, that's interesting. Let's get something a bit more proper. Now, this signal I can tell is a broadcast, because there's a strong signal down the middle, that's the actual radio waves, and then you've got the audio splattering around it, the modulated sound of AM radio, either side. And what do we have there? It's a comparatively weak signal. There's a man speaking. You see a much weaker signal here. But if we want to reduce interference from that signal, you can drag this filter, this bandwidth in, and we're filtering away the lower part of the sideband and only hearing the upper side. Now the frequency is a tiny bit out. Wait, do this the first minus. So in here we see other data signals, like this. And this. And here we see an interesting one now. It's quite weak, but that is going to be upper side band. So, how can we tell? There's a slightly heavier edge to it on the left hand side. And then off to the right you've got the audio modulation splattering out. So if it's on the upper side of it, the audio, you click the upper side band. If it's the other way around, so the solider, more solid line on the right hand side, this audio is on the lower side. So you click LSB. So there's a big broadcast signal, right? Line down the middle. Oh, but it sounds weird because we're on sideband. If we go to AM, we're off tune. And we can make that a bit wider. So you'll get to recognize some of these signals and have fun playing. Right, so we figured out how to use these web SDR radios. We've figured out the interface and the controls, and starting to learn to identify some of the different signals. And now we're going to look at this box. Really interesting thing here. This is extension. Now, I only use a couple of these, but what's really handy is that actually they include a schedule for you to find the appropriate signals. So I'm going to go fax. Oh, something popping up over here and something popping up there. HF fax decoder. Not quite the same as an old fax machine. It's actually an older technology, but kind of similar. Oh, these are frequencies from Hamburg, from northward in the UK, from Athens, and from Murmansk in Russia. This radio is in Germany, so let's try a German frequency. See what it gets. Ah, perfect. That horrible noise is a fax transmission, and so it's progressing down here, but because we've selected this fax extension, it's also decoding it up here. Look at this. It's a picture by radio. And that is an image. So even though there are letters there, they're going as image. A bleep is a line showing white space and interruptions to white space. Black lines, in other words. One line at a time. It'll gradually build up. Probably a weather map. This takes time, longer than a Twitter video can handle. Deutscher Wetterdienst, there we go. Yeah, it takes longer than one video will handle, but it's something else you can play with. And remember, it's not where you are, it's where the radio is.